He says I'm his, that we're a pair, that I came to him on my own, but I don't remember, and he smells like danger or home. Until I decide, no one touches me. I wake to the shape of a ceiling I don't recognize and the weight of a blanket that isn't mine. The light is indecisive, gray at the edges, the color of a held breath. My mouth tastes like metal and cotton. Someone has washed the sheets in something clean and sharp. There's a faint resin scent underneath, like pine caught in cold air. For 3 long seconds, I am too still for a living person. Then panic arrives with a switchblade click. I shove the blanket away and sit up too fast. The room tilts. A dresser, a door, a framed photograph face down on the nightstand. The bedding is soft and heavy, the kind that holds you in place. I claw at it anyway. Footsteps in the hallway. Not rushed. Solid. He fills the doorway before my brain decides whether to run or fight. Tall, broad shoulders, dark t-shirt clinging to muscle as if the fabric has chosen a side. He doesn't cross the threshold. He watches me like a storm watches a coastline. Lennox, he says, and the sound of my name in his voice is a low pull in my bones. You're awake. My hands find the mattress, fingers anchoring in the seam. Don't. My voice breaks and I hate it. Don't come closer. I wasn't going to. His tone is flat, not gentle, not cruel, just steady. You're safe. People who say that are almost never the reason you are. Where am I? My house. The answer should be absurd. It lands like a stone. I glance around again, searching for clues that tie me here. A sweatshirt thrown over a chair. A book on the floor with a slanted bookmark. A ceramic mug ringed faintly at the bottom. Nothing screams my name, but nothing argues with it either. What did you do to me? I ask, and it comes out sharper than I intend, all blade, no sheath. Something like a smile touches his mouth and disappears. Nothing you didn't ask for. The air goes thin. That sounds like something a kidnapper would say. If I'd kidnapped you, he says, you wouldn't be wearing my shirt to sleep because you insisted yours smelled like hospital. I look down. The cotton hem hits my thighs. It's not mine. I breathe in and the fabric throws his scent back at me. Warm cedar, clean rain, the underside of a thunderhead. My body reacts before my head can protest. Heart, a sudden animal, lungs, too greedy. I force my eyes up. Who are you? Felix. The name doesn't ring a bell, but it rings something. We've been here before. No, I say automatically, because the alternative is a chasm. I'd remember. You don't, he agrees, and doesn't flinch. That's not on you. What is this then? I gesture toward the bed, the room, the weight of his eyes. Some kind of story you tell to confused men you drag home? I didn't drag you, he says, still in the doorway. You walked in. You told me you were done letting them decide for you. Who? He studies me as if the word should be obvious. When he doesn't answer, irritation lights where fear has been sitting. Right. Convenient amnesia. Big man, small details. Your head took a hit, he says. I can repeat facts. They won't feel true yet. Try me. You left, he says. You chose me. The rest can wait. I hate the way the room suddenly feels smaller. I hate the tremor, small as a moth in my hands. He's not moving. That should help. It doesn't. Get out, I say. The words are easier than breath. Please, he nods once. He doesn't ask if I'm sure. He steps back into the hall and sets something on the floor just inside the door, a glass of water. Then he closes the door not quite all the way, as if to say, this is a choice I'm allowed to make. Open, closed, or somewhere in between. The quiet returns louder. I drink because my throat hurts and because I want to prove the water isn't drugged. It tastes like tap and a little like chlorine. The glass sweats against my palm. My head throbs in a steady, practical way, like a worker tapping a sign. Caution, wet paint. I scrub my face. The stubble is mine. The scar on my chin is mine. The confusion wearing my skin like a borrowed coat. Mine too. But the smell in the room, that deep, steady weather scent that keeps curling under the door, that isn't me. A memory tugs, headlights bending around a slick curve, a phone vibrating in the cup holder, my pulse under my tongue, a voice on the line, sharp, insisting. A word, mine. That wasn't a command but a promise. It breaks like a wave and leaves me with nothing but damp sand. I swing my legs over the side of the bed and stand. The floor is cool. My knees complain. The dresser mirror offers me a stranger I recognize. I look older than 28 in this light, and younger in the way fear erases edges. The door's crack is a thin white slice of hall. I push it wider because closed doors choke me. The hallway is spare, framed sketches in graphite, a narrow table with a bowl of keys, a plant that looks like it belongs to someone who remembers water on schedule. The world outside the small window is winter sharp, a fence, the suggestion of trees, a sky working on forgiveness. He's in the kitchen when I find my courage and my feet. He's doing nothing dramatic, just buttering a pan, heat low, the slow patience of someone who doesn't believe in scorching. The smell of coffee runs ahead of him. He doesn't turn when the floor creaks. You said you wouldn't come closer, I say. I didn't, he answers, eyes on the pan. You did. He is infuriating. Why am I here? You were at the hospital, he says, and the words smooth none of the rough places. They called me. You put me down as an emergency contact. I don't even know you. You did, he says, like a door being set gently back on its hinges. I can leave if you want. There's money in your wallet, jacket on the back of the couch. You can call a ride, call. His jaw ticks. Whoever. The way he says whoever tells me more than the word. I glance toward the living room. A leather jacket hangs heavy over the couch arm, scuffed at the elbows in exactly the places my habits would make sense. My wallet could be inside, or this is the neatest con anyone has ever run on me. Say I believe you, I say. For a second, why are you like this? I wiggle fingers at his deliberate distance, his calm, his voice that refuses to rise. Most men would. What? He turns off the flame. When he looks at me fully, it's like stepping to the cliff edge. Not because I'm going to fall, but because my body thinks flying is an option. Lock you in a soft room until you remember you love them? I never said love, I snap. Neither did I, he says, steady again. I said you chose. Love is a word you get to meet on your own time. It shouldn't land like mercy. It does. My shoulders sag a fraction. I hate that he sees it. He plates eggs and toast without ceremony, sets the plate at the far end of the table and moves, away from it, palms loose at his sides. I take the chair nearest the window so I have the escape hatch of glass. Hunger arrives like an apology. I eat because my body is stubborn about wanting. He drinks coffee and watches the street through the slat of blinds like he's guarding it from something he can't explain. What's wrong with me? I ask finally, when the eggs are gone and I'm left with crumbs and the itch of questions. Nothing, he says. Then, because that's too simple and we both know it, you hit your head. Memory's scrambled. It'll settle, or it won't, and you'll build around it. Optimistic, practical. The silence curls again. I pick at a burn in the table's finish and wonder how many fights have been had over this wood, and how many truces. You called me Lennox, I say. Most people call me. His mouth tilts. Knox when you want them to. Lennox when you need distance. You told me that. The first week. Of what? Us. The word sits in my chest like a spark waiting for oxygen. And you? I ask because petty is easier. What do most people call you? Felix. He doesn't give me a softer version. Only name I kept from what? He looks at me for a long second like he could say 20 things and none would be the right one. Before, he says finally. There's a strand of warmth in my chest I don't want. I squash it. If I decide to leave, I'll open the door, he says. I'll drive you wherever. I'll wait if you want me to. I won't if you don't. He says it like a list he's memorized, like he said it already and already meant it. I should test him. I should call whoever. I should find the version of me that doesn't shake, march him out, and strap him in like a spine. Instead, I hear myself ask, small and stupid, did I like coffee? You hated it. The corner of his mouth betrays him. You kept trying to like it because you thought it made you look decisive. I can't help it. A laugh, quick and embarrassed, breaks loose. That's exactly the kind of thing I would do. I know, he says softly, and something in my stomach flips. I stand before I can sink into whatever this is. My legs remember the route back to the bedroom. I close the door to a crack again and stare at the line of light on the floor as if it's a map. The bed smells like detergent and him, and my traitor body eases even as my mind grips every ledge. I press my forearm over my eyes and whisper to the room, to the ceiling, to the ache under my ribs. I'm not his. I'm no one's. A beat. And the truth that scares me worse, then why does it feel more terrifying to leave than to stay? The morning crawls in through the blinds, pale and unhurried. I wake half convinced the night before was a fever dream, except the shirt on my back still isn't mine, and the smell of coffee drifts from the kitchen like proof that someone else is here. I should leave, find my jacket, my phone, my keys, call anyone, but instead I wander, barefoot, through the hall. The house isn't extravagant, it's lived in, the kind of place that wears its owner's habits on its walls, and somehow, mine too. There's a ceramic mug on the shelf above the sink, chipped at the rim in a way I recognize. I've burned my lip on that chip before. My throat closes. On the couch, a leather jacket. I run my hand over the scuffed elbow and feel the ghost of my movements, the way I lean when I hunch over a steering wheel. Books line a short shelf in the living room, not just displayed, used. One opens to a random page and there's a slanted bookmark, a train ticket folded twice, with the corners chewed. The handwriting in the margins is mine. I know my messy loop. The realization slams against denial. He could have planted this. He could have collected my things, copied my handwriting, set the scene like a play. Why, though? What maniac rehearses a life with a stranger? I slam the book shut harder than necessary and shove it back onto the shelf. Breakfast's ready, a voice calls, rough from sleep or silence. Felix stands in the kitchen, spatula in one hand, the other resting on the counter. He's barefoot, hair damp like he's just showered, wearing a plain t-shirt and gray sweatpants that should make him look ordinary. They don't. The ordinariness is what's dangerous, the quiet competence, the way he moves like gravity answers to him. He slides eggs onto a plate, toast beside them. Eat. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten since yesterday. You don't know that. I do, he says simply. I cross my arms, lean against the doorway, and let the standoff stretch. The table is set with 2 plates. I don't sit. He doesn't force me. He just lowers himself into a chair, starts cutting into his food, and chews like I'm not bristling 3 feet away. It unnerves me more than shouting would. Finally, I snap. You kidnapped me. He doesn't look up. If I kidnapped you, would I bother frying you eggs? Yes, to make it look normal. Like Stockholm Syndrome starter kit. That earns me a flick of his eyes, dark and steady. Then his mouth curves, barely. If I kidnapped you, you wouldn't be strutting around in my shirt complaining about how it fits. I glance down involuntarily. Damn him. Heat climbs my neck. I didn't strut, sure. He takes another bite, maddeningly calm. The silence fills with the scrape of his fork. My stomach growls traitorously, loud enough to make me wince. He doesn't comment. He just pushes the second plate slightly closer to my side of the table and goes back to eating his. I cave eventually, because hunger is honest in ways my head isn't. I sit, pick up the fork, and mutter, "If this is poison, you're eating it too." Romantic, he says dryly. The eggs are annoyingly good. Buttered toast, not burned. Coffee rich and hot. I hate that it feels like a ritual we've done before. Like a loop I've stepped back into mid-stride. When I set my fork down, he leans back in his chair, expression unreadable. Better? No, because now I have to wonder why you know how I like my toast. You told me once, he says. Liar. He shrugs. You can call it that if it helps. The way he says it, without heat, without defense, sinks under my skin worse than any argument. He's not trying to win. He's just waiting. I push the plate away. My palms itch to flip the table, break the illusion. This isn't my life. You set this up. Or, he says, folding his arms over his chest, you're looking at your life and refusing to believe you wanted it. My breath hitches. Sharp. I want to tell him he's wrong. I want to stand, grab the jacket, storm out. But my body doesn't move. Instead, I blurt, why me? Because you chose me, he answers instantly. No hesitation. That doesn't mean you have to again. But don't insult yourself pretending you never did. The words linger like smoke. I leave the table before I can swallow them whole. The living room feels smaller, walls leaning in. My gaze lands on the door. Solid wood, brass handle. Easy enough. My pulse kicks, imagining the cold outside, the road stretching anywhere else. Freedom or nothing. I grip the doorknob. It turns. He hasn't locked it. For a long second, I just stand there, the weight of air pressing down. All I have to do is step out. But my legs won't. My hand slips from the metal, and I hear myself breathe, too quiet to carry but too loud in my chest. Why does it feel harder to leave than to stay? Evening drapes itself over the house like a heavy coat. The living room is a rectangle of lamplight and long shadows, the kind of quiet that pretends it's benign. I sit on the edge of the couch with my elbows on my knees, pretending I'm not waiting for him to come back from wherever he disappeared to after lunch. Outside, a car passes, tires whispering on cold asphalt. The sound slides under my skin and drags something up with it. Headlights on wet road, the steering wheel warm where my palms press. The phone vibrating in the cup holder until the screen lights a name I refuse to read. My throat tightens. Don't, I tell the memory out loud. It listens about as well as I do. Felix appears in the doorway like he grew there. He's changed into a black Henley in jeans, feet bare again, a glass of water in one hand. He doesn't ask if he can come in. He just leans a shoulder to the frame and lets the room notice him. You were humming, he says. I don't hum. You do, he says, a ghost of a smile. When you're thinking hard. It's awful. Wow, I say. Congratulations on your continued assault on my character. He sets the water on the coffee table, far enough away that I can claim I reached for it all on my own. He doesn't sit. He doesn't take up space he hasn't been asked to. I should appreciate the restraint. I don't. It makes me feel unmoored, like I'm an ocean and he's waiting for weather. The phone buzzes again in my head. A word snaps into place. Enough. On the road, I say, and my voice sounds like it belongs to a careful stranger. I was driving. The phone wouldn't stop. Someone kept telling me to turn around. He nods once. Your mother. The air leaves me like a bad joke. No. She wouldn't say that. She said worse, he says. Not cruel, not pitying. Cataloging. You told her you were done. She told you you've never been anything but a burden. She cried, then went quiet. Then said you'd be back when you were tired of playing pretend. His mouth tightens. That was the word that made you hang up. I stare at him until the edges of the room go soft. Pretend. It lodges behind my ribs and rattles like a coin in a dryer. I swallow. I don't believe you. Okay, he says. That's it? Okay? You asked, he says. I answered. You don't have to take it as gospel. The calm makes me want to throw something. And you want me to believe that I what? Walked out? On my family? On my mother? He doesn't look away. You left the house you grew up in. You didn't leave the part of you that thought you owed them your oxygen. The lamp hums quietly. I hear my own pulse, loud as a door slamming. Stop talking like you know me. I do know you, he says, maddeningly quiet. You told me to. No, I snap, heat rising, brittle and too bright. No, I would never. I'm on my feet before the sentence finishes. The words rip out of me, full-bodied, too big for the room. I would never choose you. Silence detonates, then settles. I'm breathing like I ran a mile through wet sand. Felix doesn't flinch. He just stands there with my anger flattening against the steady wall of him. Okay, he says again, and it makes me want to scream. Then you didn't. That's not. I scrub my hands over my face, furious at the heat in my eyes. Why don't you fight back? Why don't you say what you clearly came here to say? You chose me. You left them. Be grateful I fed you eggs. Where's the lecture, Felix? His jaw works once, a flicker, then stills. Do you need me to fight you right now? Yes. No. Maybe I need him to fight for me. The realization is a match head flaring. Brief, obvious, dangerous. He glances at the glass of water he's set down. You're angry, he says. You should be. You're scared. You should be that too. None of it is an argument I have to win. Then what are we doing? I demand. Standing in the same room, he says. That's enough for today. It feels like he's handed me a rope and refused to pull on it. Infuriating. Honest. Get out, I say, voice hoarse. Please. He nods like he's already been here in this exact minute, like this house has a groove for my grief, and he's learned not to step in it. He turns. His shoulders look like they could carry hours. He leaves without slamming anything, footsteps careful as if the floorboards might bruise. The quiet swells. I hate it. I hate him for giving it to me. I hate myself for hating it. I pace. The living room is suddenly too small for my body, my ghost, and my opinions. A framed print over the bookshelf catches my eye. Graphite lines of a bridge at night. I've stood on that bridge. I know the angle of that view the way you know your own handwriting. Except I don't, right? Because this is all some elaborate stage set and I'm the ungrateful audience. My hands need something to do, so I raid the hallway closet for a blanket to smother the lamp's light. The closet smells like detergent and winter air, and on the top shelf a stack of shirts sits, folded with the kind of rumpled care that says human hands, not a store display. I reach for the top one, because self-sabotage is my new hobby. The shirt is soft and gray, worn thin. The print across the chest is bold and obnoxiously proud. World's okayest Omega. A bark of laughter escapes me, harsh and unexpected. No, I tell the shirt, absolutely not. I hold it up anyway, and something in my chest loosens against my will. It's ridiculous. I would never wear this. Would I? I imagine myself in it. Bedhead, coffee I pretend to enjoy. Felix rolling his eyes so hard it counts as cardio. My cheeks heat. I shove the shirt back on the shelf as if it burned me, then immediately pull it down again because apparently I've entered the bargaining stage with cotton. Okayest, I mutter, tracing the ink with my thumb. That's generous. The humor arrives like a stray cat, suspicious, scruffy, refusing to come when called but here anyway. I let it circle my ankles. My breathing evens, enough to let the evening back in without choking on it. On the far wall, the light from the street sifts through the blinds and bars. Dust sparkles like a galaxy caught trying to leave. I lean against the closet doorframe and let my head thud back. The echo is hollow and honest. I wouldn't choose you, I'd said. The words replay and ring false, not because I believe him, Felix, with his patience that feels like a dare, but because part of me recognizes the cadence of my own lie. The same one I've told in different rooms, different houses, to different mirrors. I wouldn't choose the thing that might actually see me. Right, of course. Very noble. Also very convenient. The memory of the road returns, less jagged. The vibration of the phone. My mother's voice, thin and fierce as fishing line. Pretend, she'd said. Or maybe I put that word in her mouth because I needed a villain with a familiar face. The argument was real, either way. I remembered the taste of it. Metal and adrenaline and a brand new vow forming like a bruise under the skin. I was done being drafted into someone else's idea of me. If I was driving toward Felix, what did that make me then? Brave? Stupid? Tired enough to try something else? I picture him in the doorway a few minutes ago, swallowing whatever speech might have made this easier for him and worse for me, not walking toward me, not away from me either, holding a room open like it was a door. My anger finds a new shape under my ribs, one I recognize with a wince. It's not a blade anymore, it's a mirror. I'm mad that he exists in this measured, relentless way, yes, but I'm furious at the version of me who might have known that and gone anyway. I slide down the wall until I'm sitting on the runner rug, the ridiculous shirt pulled in my lap like a punchline I'm not ready to tell. Fine, I say to nobody, to the shadows, to the version of me hovering in all the corners of this house. Maybe I did choose you. Maybe I'm mad at you for letting me. Maybe I'm madder at me for needing to. The radiator ticks once, as if the house is clearing its throat. I press the heel of my hand to my sternum and breathe until it hurts less. The night has settled in fully now, all ink and edges. The door to the street is a straight line, 10 steps, a handle, a cold gust, a clean escape. The fact that I'm counting means I'm still pretending I'll take it. I fold the shirt, badly, defiantly, and shove it under my arm like contraband. I don't put it back. When I stand, the room steadies around me. I'm not ready to believe him. I'm definitely not ready to forgive anyone. But the truth, inconvenient and unfriendly, has already set up camp in my chest. The person I'm yelling at the loudest isn't Felix. It's me. The afternoon smells like cold metal and old rain. Out back, the garage door is rolled up halfway, and the car sits with its hood open like a patient baring its throat. Felix is elbow deep in the engine, forearms streaked with oil, a rag hanging from his back pocket. Somewhere, a neighbor's dog barks and then thinks better of it. I tell myself I only came out for air. The house had started to feel like it was listening. He doesn't look up when I stop in the mouth of the garage. "Hand me the 10mm?" he asks, as if I know what that is. I glance at the tray of sockets and pick the one that looks most 10-ish. He takes it without brushing my fingers. His hands are steady, quick. There's a kind of grace to the way he works. No wasted motion, no dramatic sighs, just the quiet confidence of a man who has made friends with stubborn things. The engine ticks. The smell of gasoline is a thin ribbon under the heavier smell of cut air and cold. It's not fair. The way he looks like a portrait that expects you to blink first. I catch myself watching the flex of his wrist, the tendon jumping when he tightens a bolt, the smudge of grease along his jaw where he must have scratched. I look away too late. "Tea?" he says, as if rescuing me from my own eyes. He wipes his hands on the rag and nods toward a chipped thermos on the workbench. "I don't like coffee," I mutter, defaulting to old facts because new ones are a mess. "Apparently, you like this," he says. "You pretended not to until you realized it didn't make you interesting." "I am interesting," I say, offended on principle. "Yeah," he says, oddly gentle. "You are..." He twists the thermos cap and steam ghosts up, carrying a warmth that smells like lemon and something herbal. He pours into a dented enamel mug and then into a second. When he passes one to me, his fingers find mine for the briefest moment. It's nothing. It's thunder. A flash pops under my ribs, a hallway lit by fairy lights, laughter caught in my throat because he had just called me unbearably dramatic, the brush of his knuckles against mine as he stole my mug and declared I'd made it wrong. The memory is so specific it makes my knees go soft. I yank my hand back like the mug burned me. Tea slops over the rim, hot on my skin. Don't. He sets his own mug down, palms up like a man negotiating with a stray cat. I didn't mean. Stop. My heartbeat is a wrong drum. I step away, the garage suddenly all corners. You're faking it. This, the touches, the memories, I'm aware of how wild I sound and I can't slow it. You're putting things where I'll find them. You're rehearsing me into your life. He takes the accusation the way he takes a wrench. Careful, firm. If I wanted to script you, he says quietly, I wouldn't leave blanks. My laugh is ugly. Congratulations. You've found a way to make gaslighting sound poetic. He breathes once, slow, as if calibrating. You're scared. He doesn't push the word like a diagnosis. He sets it between us like a tool. Me too. That disarms me more than anything else could have. I scowl because the alternative is something embarrassing. You don't look scared. I don't look a lot of things, he says. He nods at my mug. Drink. It'll help. Bossy. Practical. The tea is good. Annoyingly so. Warm seeps into my palms and then into my throat. The garage hums with the low electricity of a space that remembers work. Wind moves dry leaves along the fence and the sound is like pages turning. I make it to the end of the mug without crying or accusing him of sorcery again, which I decide counts as growth. He goes back to the engine, and the quiet eases around us, less like a held breath and more like a hand not quite touching a shoulder. When the car finally gives a reluctant cough and then a steady idle, he lets himself have the smallest version of a victory smile. It's a dangerous sight. I look away, which only directs the image to the place in my head that keeps storing things I swear I don't want. You're good at this, I tell the workbench, because saying it to his face might count as intimacy. At engines? He asks. At patient things, I say, which is practically a confession. He wipes his hands again, leaves the rag neatly folded, and kills the engine. I'll keep the garage door cracked, he says, as if reading a weather report. You never liked it closed. I could, I say, because pettiness is my favorite hat. Leave it open. Walk out of it. He nods. No surprise, no flinch. You could. I hate him a little for not making it easy to hate him. Night shifts in like a tide. Back inside, the mirror above the dresser catches me on my way to pretending I'm not going to stare into it. I stop anyway. The version of me in the glass looks tired, a little haunted, wearing a shirt that is still not mine. Oil smears on my wrist like a borrowed bruise. Tell me the truth, I say to my reflection. My voice is hushed, as if the house has ears. Do I want this because it's mine, or because it's here? The mirror is not helpful. I brace my hands on the dresser and do the thing I'm worst at. I try to be honest with myself. Part of me wants to be right more than it wants to be happy, I say. Part of me wants to call him a liar because then I don't have to admit The word snags, I haul it over barbs. I want to believe him. The words land and don't crack the floor. My shoulders drop a centimeter. The admission feels like standing under a hot shower after a storm and realizing you're still cold inside. There's a scent in the room I've been pretending not to notice all day. His. Not heavy, not sprayed on. A weatherfront kind of smell, cedar and rain. The iron edge that curls the air before lightning makes a point. It threads the fabric of the shirt I'm wearing, and it slides along my skin until my breathing changes without permission. I hate the way my body answers. Heat moves low, an ache unfurling like a warning and a welcome. My pulse picks up, sync to a beat I don't remember learning. The back of my neck prickles. Every part of me that has been on guard for days wants, for a second, to lower the weapon and see what happens. I grip the dresser harder. Absolutely not, I inform my biology. Traitor. And yet. The response is not fear, not exactly. It's recognition, old and cellular, a memory without pictures. Maybe this is what a bond feels like when you take away the story, a door in the body that knows the shape, of one hand and keeps looking for it in the dark. I turn from the mirror because I don't trust the version of me who stares back and cross to the window. The night outside is a thin sheet of frost over streetlights. The garage door is still cracked. A strip of gold slides onto the driveway. I can't see Felix from here, but I can feel him the way you feel the space a person fills when they leave a room. Stop it, I tell the emptiness. You're being dramatic. A laugh echoes in my head, low, familiar. You're almost never dramatic quietly. I freeze. The window is cold against my fingertips, the sill rough where paint is chipped. That voice, not sound, not exactly, more like an afterimage, what light does to your eyes when you stare too long and then blink. Great, I whisper, because humor is a flotation device. Now I'm haunted. I slide the window down until it clicks, cutting off the ribbon of night. The room hushes. My pulse does not. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard shifts like someone changing their mind. I stand there a long time with my palm flat to the glass, listening to a voice that isn't in the room and isn't in my head so much as in the space between. It doesn't tell me what to do. It doesn't ask. It just lingers, a fingerprint on air. I kill the lamp and let the dark have the walls. The shape of the house settles around me like a coat I'm not ready to claim but can't stop wearing. I crawl under the heavy blanket and shut my eyes. You're safe, that remembered voice says again. Not a promise, just a weather report. Liar, I whisper, but the word has no teeth left. And when sleep comes, it smells like cedar and rain. Night is a slow tide against the window. The room smells like detergent and the ghost of rain. The blanket heavy enough to keep my body still while my brain sprints laps. I lie on my back and stare at the ceiling until it starts to look like a map of a place I don't know how to name. The memory doesn't knock this time. It walks in. Headlights, water hissing under the tires, wipers dragging a metronome I refuse to obey. A phone face down in the cup holder, lighting my knuckles with every buzz. A word pulsing on the screen. Home, as if it were a place in a leash. The last thing I said before I hit decline, I'm done. I sit up too fast. The room tilts, corrects. My throat is raw with words I haven't said yet. Felix? A beat, another. Then his footsteps, measured and unalarmed, down the hall. He doesn't turn on the overhead light when he appears in the doorway. He uses the lamp, like he remembers that I hate ceiling glare at night. The yellow circle he makes of the room is human-sized. You okay? He asks, voice tuned low. I remember the road, I say, palms open on the blanket like I'm about to be searched. I was alone. I turn the phone face down because I couldn't stand to see. I swallow. I left them. I left. He nods once, careful. Yeah, and I was coming here. The idea stands up in my chest and asks to be believed. To you. To me, he confirms, and the words aren't a victory, they're weather. You called from a gas station 20 miles out, said you needed directions. I said I'd meet you. You got in the car before I could. A flash, fluorescent lights, the smell of burnt coffee and old candy, blue paper towels that disintegrate when you try to be useful. My hands shaking on a steering wheel, not from fear but from the end of something that had taken too long to end. Why didn't you stop me? I ask. And the question makes no sense even as it leaves my mouth. Felix leans his shoulder against the doorframe like he could hold up the house if it tried to fall. I didn't want to. You weren't a fire. You were a person. You make that sound easy. It wasn't. I drag a hand over my face. We weren't. The word snags. You said we weren't fully bonded, he supplies, and there's a muscle in his jaw that jumps before he makes it behave. No, not fully. You wanted to be sure you were choosing it, not defaulting to it. I agreed. The pause is a rough edge. We were taking it slow. I bark a laugh that feels like it belongs in someone else's mouth. Right, me. Taking anything slow. You, he says. And the corner of his mouth softens in a way that makes my ribs ache. For once, A beat of silence where we both watch the lamplight going gold on the dresser mirror. I hate what comes next. I say it anyway. They tried to get me back. His eyes lift to mine. He doesn't pretend not to know who they are. Yeah. How? Calls. Your brother came by here once. Felix's knuckles flex where his hand hangs. He stood on the walk and told me you always run cold when you're scared. He said I was the new fever. He asked me to send you home so they could manage you. Manage, I repeat, and the syllables sit like pennies on my tongue. Charming. He left when I didn't engage, Felix says. Your mother switched tactics after that. She left voicemails about holidays. She said she was worried, then said she was disappointed, then said she forgave you for lapsing. He looks at the floor, like the wood might explain people. She kept using that word, lapse. Like you were sobriety and we were the drink. Heat crawls up my throat, shame's older, angrier cousin. I chose you, I say, and it embarrasses me how much I need him to contradict me. You chose me, he says, and the room doesn't explode. It just breathes. You were terrified of choosing anyone, including yourself. You did it anyway. The laugh that comes out of me is shredded. I did that? I press my fists against my sternum as if the bone might hold what my head can't. I did this? I walked out and drove toward me, he says. No adornment, no apology. And then that truck clipped your rear quarter panel when you swerved to avoid a pothole you didn't see because you were crying and pretending you weren't. You spun and kissed the guardrail. His mouth tightens into a shape I haven't seen on him. I was 5 minutes away. The EMTs beat me by 3. My breath goes thin. You saw. Enough, he says. More than I wanted to. Not as much as I feared. I lean back against the headboard because sitting upright suddenly requires negotiations. The mattress holds me like it has taken a class. I did this, I say, the words tasting like iron and relief. Me. I ruined it. I started it. I left. His throat works. You started it, he says, the slightest crack in the evenness of his voice. And when you woke up, you... He cuts himself off. He looks, briefly, like a man trying to put a lid on something boiling. You didn't know me. I know you, I say too quickly because I hate the way his face did that. I mean, my body knows you. That's worse, actually. It's not worse, he says, but the words are rough now, sanded the wrong way. It's just not complete. Something in me stands up and bangs a pot. Say it, I bite out, because the half-quiet is making me itch. Say what you're not saying. His eyes lift to mine and hold. The control I keep watching him wear like armor slips, only an inch but enough to show blade. I don't want your pity, he says, and it lands between us with weight. I don't want you to stay because you crashed. I don't want you to choose me because your mother is unbearable, or because your brother practices speeches. I want you to choose me because you want to. Or not. He's breathing harder now, not by much, but I can count the extra beats at his throat. His hands open and close once like he's emptying them of something sharp. I can wait, he says. I have been waiting, but I'm not going to build a life with a ghost because you're afraid of being the man who made a mistake on a wet road. Anger flares to cover everything it can. So that's it. Ultimatums. It's not an ultimatum, he fires back too fast. Then he swallows and corrects himself. Quieter, ragged at the edges. It's a boundary. I don't get to rewrite your head. You don't get to pretend you owe me a future. The room hums. The lamp throws a warm ellipse on the wall and makes enemies of all the dark corners. I realize I am shaking, not because he shouted, he didn't, but because truth is a cold thing even when it's also relief. I hate this, I whisper. Me too, he says, and for the first time tonight the words sound like we're on the same side of something. Backs against it, breath sinking for lack of better options. I look at him and I see the man in the garage with his hands in an engine choosing patience over force. I see the man in the kitchen not locking doors. I see the man at the edge of my bed now, hands empty, not reaching, not retreating. Letting me be a person who gets to be wrong and then decide. Say it again, I murmur, because I need the part that hurt to come back with a different flavor. We weren't fully bonded, he says, steadying. You wanted to be sure. You made me promise we'd do it clean. No pressure, no leverage. Just want. My laugh is a shaky ghost. Sounds like something I would write on an index card and tape to a mirror. You did, he says. Blue tape. Crooked. I close my eyes. A vision slots into place so neatly it has to be true. A bathroom mirror with a crooked blue rectangle. My own messy, looped handwriting. Choose because yes, not because fear. I swallow glass that isn't there. God, I say, and then wrecked, I did this. Yes, he says, and there's no triumph in it. Only witness. You did. We sit in that for a while. The quiet not exactly kind but no longer cruel. The house ticks. Somewhere a pipe coughs. The world beyond the window remembers its winter. Okay, I say finally, and the word feels less like surrender than like stepping onto a floor that holds. Okay. I look at him. If we weren't, I can't make myself say bonded again, the word has too much gravity. If we weren't finished, then I'm not late. I'm just not done. You're not done, he agrees, and the steadiness returns to him in increments, like a heart finding its rhythm after a shock. I hate that you're right, I add, because petty is the tiny life raft I refuse to toss. His mouth tilts. I'm not always. Don't get cocky, I say, and my voice no longer sounds like it belongs to a stranger. When he moves to go, because he always does when I start to look like I might need air, I stop him without touching him. Felix, I say, and his name is a small risk. I don't know who I was last month, but right now, I tap my chest, where the panic has made room for something not entirely unpleasant. Right now I know this is my call. He searches my face like he might find a road sign. Okay, you're going to have to live with that, I add, and it's almost a joke. I've been living with worse, he says softly, and leaves the lamp on when he goes, like a man who knows light isn't an argument, it's a tool. When the door eases shut to a comfortable inch, I slide down in the bed until the pillow meets the back of my skull. The ache under my ribs is still there, but it's changed shape. It doesn't feel like a hook anymore. It feels like a hinge. For the first time since I woke up here, the future doesn't look like a test I'm bound to fail. It looks like a door I haven't decided to open yet, but the handle is in my hand. The house at night is all soft machinery, the hum of the fridge, the tick of pipes finding their own rhythm, the whisper of the heater asking winter to sit down and behave. I pad into the kitchen barefoot, a glass of water sweating in my hand. The counters are clean in that unshowy way Felix has. No fuss, just order. The overhead light is off. I flip the small lamp near the coffee machine and turn the room into a pool of honey. My phone sits face down where I left it earlier. I hover a second, then flip it over. Missed calls. A thread of voicemails that could knit a sweater. I press call before I can talk myself out of it. The line clicks alive. 2 rings. Knocks. My mother's voice is velvet stretched over wire. Finally. It's been days maybe, could be an hour. Time has been the opposite of helpful. Hi, I say, and already feel 12. Where are you? Her tone locates me without geography. Your brother said you've been confused. I hit my head, I say. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. A sigh, expertly calibrated. Listen to me, sweetheart. You need to come home. We can sort this out. You've always been. She pauses, selects a word like a scalpel. Impulsive. We understand, but this situation you've put yourself in, I stop. The bait is all hooks. That man, she says, as if Felix were a bad smell down the hall. He is using you. You're vulnerable, he knows that. He's isolating you from the people who actually love you. I stare at the counter's grain until it blurs. No one is isolating me. I called you. Because he let you? She tisks softly. You don't hear yourself. You're not thinking clearly. You never do when you decide to. She laughs, humorless, a sound polished by practice. Reinvent. I left, I say, because the truth needs air. I left because I wanted to. You left because you were upset. You say dramatic things you don't mean. Her voice gentles, which somehow cuts deeper. Come home. We'll take care of everything. You can rest. You can forget all this nonsense. We'll help you get back to yourself. Back to the version of me they recognize. The one who fits their outlines. Who apologizes for taking up space and calls it maturity. Mom, I say carefully, like walking a tray of glasses. What if back isn't where I'm going? A beat of silence, cold as a tile floor. Don't be ridiculous, my knuckles go white around phone. I'm not ridiculous. You're always so stubborn, Lennox. The use of my full name is the sound of a leash snapping taut. You owe your family at least the courtesy of not humiliating us. There it is. The real thing under the velvet. Something in me that has been bent at a polite angle for years finally clicks straight. I don't owe you humiliation, I say, low. Or explanations that look like apologies. Explanations are a form of respect, she counters. You wouldn't be so cruel if you weren't confused. I forgive you. Come home. Forgiveness is currency. Forgiveness is trap. Forgiveness given before the supposed sin is named, so the debt is preloaded. I don't want to come home, I tell the lamp, the sink, my own stubborn reflection in the microwave door. I want. The word catches, then drops clean. I want to stay, with him, not a question, a verdict. With me, I say, and surprise myself with how true it rings. Where I am, with people who actually hear me, a sharp inhale. That man is not your family. Maybe not, I say. My hand is steady now. But he isn't trying to turn me into furniture. She goes quiet in the way only people who love control can manage, full of calculation, not listening at all. You'll regret this. Maybe, I say. If I do, I'll own it. She tries one last door. If you hang up now, don't come crying when it all falls apart. You'll be relieved if I do, I say gently. You'll be able to say you were right. The silence this time is honest. Good night, Lennox. Good night, I say, and end the call before the echo can find me. I breathe, in, out. The kitchen holds. On the table, the blue-taped index card in my head reappears. Choose because yes, not because fear. I'm so tired of being a man who chooses because fear. Everything okay? Felix's voice arrives from the doorway, pitched soft enough to be ignored if I want. He doesn't cross the threshold. He's wearing a t-shirt and those gray sweats, hair damp from a shower, a towel slung over his shoulder like a concession to domesticity. I don't look at him right away. My hands are busy not shaking. Define okay. That sounded like a no, he says, wry but wary. I set the phone down. She thinks you're a fever. He huffs. Romantic. She thinks you're using me. He's quiet for a beat. Do you think that? I turn, finally. He's backlit by the hall lamp, all edges, but his face is open. Tired, patient, beautiful, in that infuriating way men are when they don't realize looking at them is a decision. I think, I say, and have to restart because the first try comes out as air, that I'm terrified of wanting anything that could be taken away. Including you. He doesn't flinch. That's fair. And, I add, pushing the word across the counter between us like a risky offering, I think I'm more afraid of going back to the version of me that says yes to being managed. He doesn't move. He gives the moment room. What do you need from me right now? I don't know, I say, and the honesty tastes like clean water. I don't know how to trust a thing I can't remember. I don't know how to not use you as a shield against them. I laugh once helpless, because the truth is too much and not enough. I don't know how to do this without turning into a requirement. Then don't, he says. Don't make it a requirement. Make it a request. I blink. What does that even mean? It means, he says, stepping one pace closer, slow enough to not startle a skittish horse. If you want me to stay, ask. If you want me to back up, say it. If you want me to touch you, say where. He swallows, and the bob of his throat does something undefensible to my equilibrium. And if you want me to not touch you at all, I can do that too. The kitchen tilts, but the floor holds. I look at him and feel the frightening, relieving thud of consent between us. Mine, his, offered without leverage. It lands like a key in a lock I didn't know I had. Stay, I say, and the word shakes. Please. He sets the towel on a chair, like the consummate show-off of reasonable men, and comes only as far as the other side of the table. He rests his hands on the back of a chair and waits. I circle the corner because this is my choice to close. The distance shrinks to inches. I can count his eyelashes and the new nick on his jaw, the clean smell of soap under the weather smell that always betrays him. Okay, he asks, hardly more than breath. Okay, I say, and put my palm flat against his chest, over his t-shirt, over the steady drum I'd know in a dark room. He covers my hand with his, warm and careful, and we just stand there, like idiots, like saints, like two people who have run out of performances and found they can live without applause. The first kiss is a negotiation we both win. Slow, like we're translating from a language we use to speak fluently and want to get right this time. He doesn't pull me closer, until I lean for it first. He doesn't tilt my chin until I lift it. He tastes like mint and sleep and something I refuse to name home for fear of sounding like a greeting card. When we break, it's not because of fear. It's because we both smile, and the geometry gets complicated. You still hate coffee, he says against my mouth, like it's breaking news. And you, I whisper, not moving away, absolutely grumble in your sleep. His ears go pink in a way that should be illegal. I don't. You do, I say, delighted. Like a distant storm, very macho. Terrible per I'll sue, he mutters, but his forehead drops to mine, and the laugh that shakes him shakes me too. The kitchen remembers itself politely around us. The lamp hums, the fridge purrs, the world does not end. Bed? He asks, neutral as a suggestion can be. Sleep, I confirm. Just, I swallow. Just stay. He nods, not like a concession, but like a yes he's relieved to give. In the bedroom, he leaves the lamp at its lowest setting. We climb under the heavy blanket with the choreography of people trying not to scare a deer. We don't tangle. We hover close enough that heat can do the rest. Good night, Knox, he says into the space between us. Good night, I say. And for the first time since the road and the rain and the wreck, my body believes me. My last thought before the dark goes all the way down is embarrassingly tender. If he grumbles, I'll tell him tomorrow. I fall asleep facing him, a handspan apart, and nothing in me braces for a blow. Morning arrives like someone turning the world's dimmer up one notch at a time. The house smells like toast and the citrus-clean soap Felix uses on his hands after he wrestles with engines. I lie still and inventory the absence of panic. My mind does its usual perimeter check and finds only room, the kind you can breathe in. I pad into the kitchen barefoot, hair doing whatever hair does when you've slept like you meant it. Felix is already there, a line of sun catching on the edge of the blade as he slices strawberries with unnecessary competence. The coffee machine mutters. Eggs hiss in a pan. He's in a t-shirt and sweats, those quiet uniforms of people who get things done without announcing it. You're up, he says, not turning like the room told him. Bold of you to assume, I say, and my voice is embarrassingly soft. He grunts, which is Felix for do you want toast light or medium? He reaches for the pan, shakes it with that calm snap of the wrist that refuses drama. Sit, before you decide you hate chairs. I would never, I say, sitting. Chairs are in my top 5. After being right, he says, finally looking at me. The glance is a small, good morning kind of touch, and dramatic exits. I'm retired, I murmur. He slides a plate across to me. Eggs that look better than any I've ever earned, toast a precise shade of golden I'll pretend not to respect. A mug thunks down by my elbow. Tea, not coffee. Lemon breathes up. He doesn't make me say thank you. It's tucked into the way I take the first bite. He leans his hip to the counter and watches the window like it owes him a weather report. He's muttering at the pan under his breath in a way I've started to categorize as devotion disguised as complaint. You're doing that thing, I say. What thing? He says, deadpan. Cooking, grumbling at inanimate objects. I lower my voice. It's very macho. He aims a look at me that fails to be stern because of the way his mouth wants to laugh. Don't start. I already started, I say, and maybe this is what contentment sounds like. Two people being themselves without running half the words through translation. We eat like it's a ritual we're allowed to invent again. My body listens and believes. The kitchen light makes a halo of dust above the table. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard remembers a different footfall and decides it can live with the change. I set my fork down, the tiny clink louder than it should be. My pulse is steady. The decision in my chest has been practicing all night, rehearsing its lines until they stopped sounding like courage and started sounding like truth. Felix, I say. He looks up, hands stilling around his mug. Yeah. The words arrive on their own, clear and thin as a blade. I don't remember who I was, but I know who I want to be now. I swallow, not because it's hard, but because some moments ask for ceremony. Yours, again, without debt, for a heartbeat he doesn't move at all. Then it happens, the real smile. Not the ghost of one, not the short private curve he hides in his coffee, but a whole open thing that starts in his eyes and makes the room brighter. It knocks the wind out of me better than any lecture could. Okay, he says. And the way he says it is the opposite of settling. It's a door opening. Okay, knocks. He doesn't cross the space immediately. He gives the decision time to land where I put it. When he does move, it's to sit in the chair across from me, knees braced wide as if ready to hold a newly unsteady world. He reaches out, palm up, that offer he keeps making without strings. I lay my hand in his, warmth, easy as breath. No leverage, he says, half to himself, echoing the blue-taped promise on a mirror that may or may not contain an index card anymore. Just yes, I echo. We sit there in a small silence that doesn't require performance. My chest feels like the garage did when he got the engine to idle right. Obvious, steady, full of a quiet I can trust. I stand first, because theater. One more thing. He tips his head, wary and amused. That's never meant a small thing. It's symbolic, I say, and go to the hallway closet. The shelf is exactly where my hands remember it, even if my memory doesn't. The shirt waits where I hid it like contraband while pretending I had no attachment to cotton comedy. I pull it down and hold it up for inspection. Felix blinks once and then laughs, helpless and surprised. It's a beautiful sound. You didn't? Oh, I did, I say, and tug the soft gray over my head, smoothing it over the not quite mine t-shirt I slept in. The letters are obnoxious and proud across my chest. World's okayest Omega. I strike a pose. Behold, personal growth. He rubs a hand over his mouth like he could smother how fond he is. Fails. It's a crime. It's iconic, I counter. It's branding. It's a lawsuit, he says, eyes bright. Against whom? Against taste. He rises, steps closer, stops within my reach, like a man who has made a rule and intends to keep loving it. His fingers twitch once, resisting the urge to fix the hem and then relax. It looks good on you. What doesn't? I say, then ruin my own bravado by blushing. Kidding. Mostly. He leans in just enough to kiss the corner of my mouth, soft and sure, and it's astonishing how quickly my body decides this is the right version of gravity. You sure? He asks when he pulls back, the question a checkpoint, not a challenge. I'm sure, I say. I'm allowed to change my mind later too. You are, he says, immediate. And you're allowed to tell me when I'm being dramatic. That would require constant effort. You grumble in your sleep, I say, because victories deserve parades. Pink touches his ears. I do not. Distant storm, I whisper, and he surrenders a groan that proves my thesis and, incidentally, my influence. We clean the dishes like we've been rehearsing for a domestic montage. Neither of us deserves, but both of us can borrow. He rinses, I dry. We bump hips like accidents and don't apologize. The world outside the window goes about its morning without needing to know we've redrawn a country's borders at a kitchen table. Today, he says, handing me a plate like it's a treaty, we do nothing irreversible. Bold plan, I say. First item. I keep the shirt. I'll allow it, he says with mock gravity. Pending review. I'll file an appeal. Denied. Dictator. Drama queen. Okayest, I correct, and the word lands exactly where I wanted it to. Evidence that self-mockery is not surrender, that I can name a softer thing without dissolving into it. He sobers a fraction, watching me like he wants to memorize this face for the bad days. I'm not going anywhere, he says. Even when you forget that. I'll remind you, I answer, mouth twitching. You forget stuff too? Like what? You were supposed to deny the grumbling, he huffs. I've accepted defeat. We fall quiet again, the good kind, the kind with furniture. I catch sight of our reflection in the dark glass of the microwave door, two people who look like themselves and a little like each other, which is what happens when you stop guarding how much you care. I used to think this story was about memory, I say, almost to the reflection, about what I could or couldn't get back. He waits the way he does when a bolt is almost seated and needs one more turn from me. It isn't, I finish. It's about choice, about choosing the life I live in on purpose, choosing you, choosing me. Again, he says. Again, I echo. He reaches for my hand, not to pull me anywhere but to stand beside me while I stand where I am. We don't seal anything dramatic. No vows, no blood, no magic circle drawn on the kitchen floor. Just a yes we can keep saying, ordinary and sharp as sunlight on clean plates. Later, he'll go out to the garage and call an engine stubborn like it offended him personally. I'll make tea too strong and pretend I meant it. We'll text my brother an invite for lunch and brace ourselves together when he says maybe. I'll keep the shirt and wear it knowing it's a joke that tells the truth. For now we're just two men in a morning, a little new and a little old, trying not to trip over how much we want to do this right. Felix kisses me once more, lazy and sure, and this time we don't laugh until we have to. Ready? He asks. For breakfast? I look at the clean counter. We already did that. For the rest, he says. I glance down at the words on my chest, ridiculous and exactly correct. I take a breath that belongs to me. Yeah, I say, let's do it. Again, without debt.